way.
Did he just?
The old man's hands didn't shake when they wrapped around the rifle. That's what made Sergeant Rex Thorne's smile disappear. 1,000 yards. One shot. One chance to prove that respect isn't given, it's earned. But when Kenneth Harding, 82, stepped up to that firing line, nobody knew they were about to witness the impossible. What happened next would shake the entire Marine Corps to its foundation. Before we dive into this incredible story, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. You won't believe where this goes. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Trust me, you need to stay until the end. This isn't just about one shot. It's about honor, redemption, and a secret that's been hidden for 50 years. Kenneth Harding swept brass casings into a pile. The same job 3 years running. When the rifles cracked, he never looked up. Yo, check out Grandpa. Kenneth kept sweeping. He'd heard it before. Sergeant Rex Thorne stood 6'2" with an M40A6 slung over his shoulder. 26 years old. Top-ranked sniper on base. He knew it. Everyone knew it. Hey, Grandpa, Thorne called out. You deaf or just stupid? The broom paused for half a second, then continued. Sweep, step, sweep. Behind Thorne, 8 Marines gathered. This was entertainment. This was better than another drill. I'm talking to you, old man, Thorne said, walking closer. It's disrespectful to ignore a Marine. Kenneth stopped, leaned on his broom, didn't turn around. I'm paying attention, Kenneth said. His voice was quiet, gravelly. Thorne laughed. Paying attention to what the dirt? It's a life, Kenneth said. A wasted one. Thorne grinned. What did you do before this sweep different dirt? The squad laughed. One of them, Kowalski, pulled out his phone and started recording. This was going on Instagram. Kenneth finally turned around. He was maybe 5'9", 160 pounds. White hair, weathered face, eyes like faded denim. His name tag said Ken. He looked at Thorne the way you look at a child throwing a tantrum. You done? Kenneth asked. And that's when things started to shift. Thorne's smile widened. Done, man. I'm just getting started. See, I don't think you have any idea what we do here. You just push your broom around and collect our trash. You don't know what it takes to be a Marine. Maybe not, Kenneth said. Yeah, definitely not. Thorne looked back at his squad. Hey, you guys think Grandpa here could even lift my rifle? Hell no. Probably throw his back out. Thorne turned back to Kenneth. Something meaner crept into his expression. Tell you what, Thorne said. I'm feeling generous. How about you try pick up a real man's weapon? See what it feels like. Kenneth didn't respond. Come on, Thorne pressed. One shot, just one. Let's see what you got, Grandpa. Or are you scared? High in the observation tower, Master Gunnery Sergeant Raymond Vance lowered his binoculars. Something about Kenneth's posture had changed. The way his weight shifted, the way his breathing slowed. Vance had seen that look before, in men who'd been to war, real war. He grabbed his radio. Tower to range control. Go ahead, Tower. Pull Kenneth Harding's file, the maintenance guy on lane 7. His file, why? Just pull it, now. Down on the range, Kenneth spoke. All right. Thorne blinked. What? I'll take your shot, Kenneth said. 1 round, 1,000 yards. Your rifle. The squad erupted. Kowalski's phone was definitely recording now. This was going viral. Thorne's grin stretched wide. Oh man, this is gonna be good. Guys get all of this. He unslung his M40A6 and held it out. Here you go, Grandpa. Try not to drop it. Kenneth took the rifle. His hands moved with precision. No fumbling, no hesitation. He checked the chamber. Empty. Then the magazine. 5 rounds. He ran his thumb along the scope's turret. Scopes good? Thorne asked, barely holding back laughter. Scopes off, Kenneth said. What? Your windage is off by 2 clicks. Elevation's off by 1. Thorne's smile faltered. Bullshit. I zeroed that this morning. Kenneth shrugged. Suit yourself. He didn't adjust it. But here's what you need to understand. Kenneth moved to the firing line like he'd done it 10,000 times. He dropped into prone position, smooth, effortless. Left hand on the forend, right hand on the grip, cheek to stock, eye to scope. One fluid motion, muscle memory carved deeper than bone. Vance's radio crackled. "Tower, this is range control. I've got Harding's file." "Go," Vance said. Wait, this can't be right." "What?" "The file's almost empty. Date of birth, March 1943. Previous employment listed as various. No military service. No education past high school. It's like someone scrubbed it." And Vance felt ice in his chest. "Say again." "The file's been sanitized. There's nothing here. Just basic info and a security clearance from 3 years ago. But here's the weird part. The clearance came from DOD, not base personnel. And it's flagged." "Flagged how?" "It says Red Ledger Protocol. I don't know what that means." Vance knew. He'd heard it once. 17 years ago. A classified briefing at Quantico. Red Ledger Protocol. The designation for operatives whose service records were sealed at the highest levels. Men who'd done things that could never be acknowledged. Men who'd fought wars that officially never happened. Ghost warriors. "Jesus Christ," Vance whispered. Down on the range, Kenneth had gone completely still. His breathing slowed until his chest barely moved. The rifle seemed to float in his hands. Thorne stood behind him, arms crossed. "Anytime you're ready, Grandpa. Target's at 1,000 yards. That's the one with the red circle." In case you can't see it, Kenneth didn't respond. "You know how to work the trigger right," Thorne continued. "It's that curved metal thing." "Shut up," Kenneth said. The words came out so quietly with such absolute authority that Thorne actually stepped back. For just a moment, the cocky Marine looked like a child caught doing something wrong. Kenneth's finger touched the trigger. His eyes were open, but he wasn't seeing the range anymore. Rice paddies, white-hot sun, the smell of napalm, an M21 rifle heavier, longer, a boy's voice in the dark. "You think you got him, Gunny?" "He's down," Kenneth had said. "He's always down." The memory dissolved. Kenneth squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked. For a moment, nothing. Then a distant metallic ping. "What the hell?" Kowalski lowered his phone. Thorne was already sprinting to the spotting scope. He pressed his eye to the lens and went very, very still. "Well," someone called out. "Did he even hit the target?" Thorne didn't answer. He just stared through the scope. "Thorne, did he hit it or not?" Slowly, Thorne straightened up. He looked at Kenneth, then at his squad, then back at Kenneth. "Center mass," he said. His voice had lost all its swagger. Dead center. First round cold bore. The silence was deafening. Kenneth stood up, worked the bolt, ejected the spent casing, handed the rifle back to Thorne. "Your scope's still off," he said. "Might want to fix that." Then he picked up his broom. And that's when the helicopters arrived. 2 UH-1Y Venoms came in low and fast from the east. They didn't land on the helipad. They landed right on the range, 50 yards away. Dust and brass casings exploded into the air. The side doors opened before the skids touched ground. Men in suits jumped out. Actual suits. On a firing range. Behind them came officers. Serious officers with serious faces and chests full of ribbons. Behind them came black SUVs racing down the access road, lights flashing. Thorne and his squad stood frozen. Kenneth kept sweeping. Vance was already moving. Down the tower stairs, 3 at a time. His radio screamed with traffic base commander demanding answers, range control panicking MPs trying to figure out who to arrest. He reached the range as a colonel stepped out of the lead SUV. Full-bird colonel, silver eagles on his collar, late 50s, iron gray hair, face like chiseled granite. His name tape read Morrison. Vance snapped to attention, saluted. "Master Gunnery Sergeant Vance, sir." Morrison returned the salute absently. His eyes scanned the range. "Where is he?" "Sir, by Kenneth Harding." "Where is he?" Vance pointed. Kenneth was 30 yards away, still sweeping. Morrison's expression softened. Just for a moment, something like awe flickered across his face. Then it was gone. He started walking toward Kenneth. Everyone followed Vance, the suits, the officers. even Thorne's shell-shocked squad. A procession of power moving toward an old man with a broom. Kenneth saw them coming, but he didn't stop sweeping. Morrison stopped 10 feet away. "Mr. Harding." Kenneth's broom paused. "That's me. Colonel James Morrison, Marine Corps Intelligence. I need to speak with you, sir." "I'm working," Kenneth said. "I understand that, sir, but then you understand I need to finish before the afternoon session." Kenneth resumed sweeping. Morrison looked back at his entourage. Not sure how to proceed. He stepped closer, lowered his voice. "Mr. Harding, I know who you are. I know what you were, and I need you to come with me, right now." Kenneth stopped sweeping. He leaned on his broom, looked at Morrison with those faded blue eyes. "Do you?" Kenneth asked quietly. "Do you really know who I was?" "Yes, sir." And what Morrison said next changed everything. "I have your real file. The one locked in a vault at Langley. The one with 47 confirmed kills in Vietnam, 12 in Cambodia, and 8 in operations that officially never happened. The one that says you were trained at Fort Benning, recruited by Macy Vsog, and operated behind enemy lines for 3 consecutive tours when most men couldn't survive one." The world stopped. Thorne sat down on the ground. His legs gave out. Kowalski dropped his phone. The other Marines just stared. Morrison continued. "The one that says you're Kenneth Michael Harding, Master Gunnery Sergeant, Marine Scout Sniper, and the most decorated shooter in Corps history, whose decorations can never be publicly acknowledged." Kenneth looked at Morrison for a long moment. Then he looked at Thorne. "That scope really is off, son," he said. "You should fix it before someone gets hurt." He turned back to Morrison. "I don't go by that name anymore, Colonel. That man died a long time ago. I'm just Ken now. I sweep floors. That's all I am." "With all due respect, sir," Morrison said, "that's not all you are. Not even close. And we have a problem that requires someone with your particular skills. I'm retired. You're needed." "No," Kenneth said firmly. "I'm done. I've been done for 50 years. Find someone else." Morrison's jaw tightened. "There is no one else, sir. Not for this." "Then you're out of luck." They stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills. The range had gone completely silent. Finally, Morrison pulled out a folder, opened it, showed Kenneth a photograph. Kenneth's face went very still. "This is why I'm here," Morrison said quietly. "This is why I need you." Kenneth stared at the photograph. His hands tightened on the broom handle until his knuckles went white. "When?" he asked. 72 hours ago." "Where?" "I can't say. Not here. But it's happening again, just like before. And if we don't stop it..." Morrison's voice trailed off. Kenneth closed his eyes. When he opened them, something had changed. The tired old man was gone. What stood there was something harder, colder, something that had been buried for half a century, but never really died. "All right," he said, "but I have conditions." "Name them." Kenneth pointed at Thorne and his squad. "These boys. They showed me disrespect today. But they're still Marines. They still have the fire. They just need someone to show them what it means to carry that fire with honor." Morrison looked confused. "I don't understand, sir." "Don't punish them," Kenneth said. "Teach them. Put them under someone who understands what it means to be a Marine. Not just a good shot. A good man." He looked at Vance. "Him. Put them under him. 1 month. Let them learn what they're really part of." Morrison glanced at Vance, who nodded once. "Consider it done, sir." "And one more thing," Kenneth said. "When this is over, my file stays sealed. I don't want any recognition. I don't want any medals. I don't want my name in any history book. I want to come back here, pick up my broom, and go back to being invisible. Can you promise me that?" "Yes, sir," Morrison said. "You have my word." Kenneth nodded slowly. Then he turned to face Thorne, who was still sitting on the ground. "Stand up, son," Kenneth said. Thorne scrambled to his feet. "You asked me what I did before this. Kenneth continued. You wanted to know if I'd ever held a real rifle. Well, now you know. But here's something else you should know. That shot I just made. That was nothing. That was easy. He stepped closer to Thorn. His voice dropped. You want to know what hard is? Hard is making that shot when you're lying in mud for 18 hours straight, when you haven't eaten in 3 days, when you can hear the enemy walking past you in the dark and you can't move, can't breathe, can't even blink, because one mistake means you and your spotter both die screaming. That's hard. Kenneth paused. But even that isn't the hardest part. Thorn was listening now. Really listening. The hardest part is living with it afterward, Kenneth said. Living with every face you saw through that scope, every trigger you pulled, every life you ended. The hardest part is carrying all that weight and still finding a way to be a good man. That's what separates a Marine from a murderer. That's what separates honor from arrogance. Do you understand me? Thorn nodded. His eyes were glistening. Yes, Gunny. No, Kenneth said. I'm not your Gunny. I'm just Ken, the janitor. And you're going to forget everything you heard here today. All of you. Because my life isn't a story for Instagram. It's not entertainment. It's mine, and I want it back. Can you do that for me? Yes, sir, Thorn said. His voice cracked. Yes, sir, we can. Kenneth nodded. Then he did something that surprised everyone. He extended his hand. Thorn looked at it, then took it. Kenneth's grip was firm, calloused. The hand of a man who'd worked every day of his life, whether that work was pulling triggers or pushing brooms. You've got potential, son, Kenneth said. You're a hell of a shot. But being a hell of a shot isn't enough. You need to be a hell of a Marine, and that starts with respect. Not just for the Corps, for everyone. Even old men with brooms, especially old men with brooms, because you never know what they've seen. You never know what they've sacrificed, so you could stand here and be an idiot for 5 minutes. Thorn actually laughed. A shaky, emotional sound. I'm sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. I know you are, Kenneth said. Now go learn something. He released Thorn's hand, turned back to Morrison. Let's go. Morrison gestured toward the waiting SUV. As they walked, Vance fell into step beside Kenneth. Sir, Vance said quietly, that was the most impressive shot I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot of shots. Kenneth smiled. Just a little. It was a good rifle. Your boy knows how to tune his weapon, even if he doesn't know how to tune his mouth. Still, Vance pressed. 1,000 yards. First round. Cold bore. Faulty scope. At your age, how... Kenneth stopped walking. He looked back at the range, at the distant target, at the young Marines still trying to process what happened. You want to know the real secret? Kenneth asked. Yes, sir. It's not about the shot. It never was. The shot is easy. Physics and practice. That's all it is. He paused. The secret is everything that comes before the shot. The patience, the stillness, the ability to wait, to breathe, to let the world become simple. One target, one rifle, one moment. Everything else falls away. All the noise, all the ego, all the fear gone. That's the secret. Kenneth looked at Vance. That's what I learned in the jungle 50 years ago, and that's what I've been practicing every day since, with a broom instead of a rifle. But it's the same principle. Be still. Be present. Do the work. The rest takes care of itself. Vance absorbed this, nodded slowly. That's profound, sir. No, Kenneth said. It's survival. Profound is for people who have time to think. I just do what needs doing. They reached the SUV. Morrison was already inside, along with the silent men in suits. Kenneth paused with his hand on the door handle. Looked back one more time. Thorn and his squad were still standing there, watching him go. Kenneth raised his hand. A small wave. Not a salute, just a wave. A gesture between humans, not ranks. Thorn waved back. Kenneth got into the SUV. It drove away. The helicopters lifted off in a thunder of rotor wash. Within 5 minutes, the range was quiet again. Dust settling, world returning to normal. Except nothing was normal anymore. Vance walked back to where Thorne and his squad stood. They looked at him with new eyes, respectful eyes, fearful eyes, eyes that understood they'd just touched something far beyond their experience. "Master Gunnery Sergeant," Thorne said formally. "What just happened?" Vance looked at each of them in turn. "You just met a ghost," he said. "A real one. The kind that haunt the Corps, not because they're dead, but because they're so alive it's terrifying. The kind of Marine every one of us should aspire to be, but most of us never will." He paused. "And you boys just treated him like trash." The shame on their faces was palpable. "But here's the thing," Vance continued. "He could have destroyed you. One word from him and your careers would be over. Conduct unbecoming. Disrespect to a superior, and yes, that old man is superior to every single one of us regardless of what's on our uniforms." Vance stepped closer. "But he didn't destroy you. He gave you a gift. He gave you a chance to learn, to grow, to become better than you are. Do you understand what that means?" "No, Master Gunnery Sergeant," Thorne said quietly. "It means he sees something in you worth saving," Vance said. "So starting tomorrow, you belong to me, all of you, for the next month. You're going to learn what the Marine Corps really means. Not the shooting, not the tactics, the heart of it, the soul of it, the thing that old man carried for 50 years without ever asking for recognition or reward." He let that sink in. "And if you're smart, if you're really smart, you'll understand that this is the most important month of your entire career. Because this is when you stop being boys playing dress-up and start becoming Marines." Silence. "Dismissed," Vance said. "Be at my office at 0500 and bring your running shoes. You're going to need them." They scattered, moving with genuine fear and genuine respect. A combination every good Marine needed to learn to balance. Vance stood alone on the range, looking at the distant target. One shot, dead center, at 82 years old, with a rifle he'd never fired, through a scope that was deliberately miscalibrated. Impossible. Except it wasn't. Because Kenneth Harding had done the impossible so many times it had become routine, and now he was gone. Pulled back into a world he'd tried to leave behind, answering a call he couldn't refuse. Vance whispered a prayer, not for Kenneth, who clearly didn't need it, but for whatever enemy had been foolish enough to make him necessary again. Because if Kenneth Harding was coming out of retirement, someone was about to learn a lesson in humility, written in blood and silence. Someone was about to discover what the Marines had known for 50 years. You don't wake the dragon, and you definitely don't disrespect the janitor. Thorne stood in the parking lot an hour later. His squad had left. The range was empty. He held his M40A6, looked at it like he'd never seen it before. He thought about Kenneth's hands, how they moved. No hesitation, no wasted motion. He thought about that shot. Center mass. 1,000 yards, with a bad scope. At 82. Thorne adjusted his windage. 2 clicks. Then his elevation. 1 click. Just like Kenneth said. Then he walked back to the firing line. Set up. Got into position. And fired. The bullet struck 6 inches left of center. Kenneth had been right. The scope was off. Thorne sat there on the gravel. His perfect rifle, his perfect zero, his perfect confidence. All wrong. And an old man with a broom had known it in 30 seconds. He looked at his hands. Young hands. Strong hands. Arrogant hands. Hands that had never swept a floor in their lives. Hands that had never carried real weight. He thought about what Kenneth said. About living with it. About being a good man. About honor. Real honor. Not the kind you wore on your uniform. The kind you carried in your chest when nobody was watching. Thorne stood up, picked up his rifle, and walked to the maintenance shed. Inside, he found a broom leaning against the wall. He picked it up, walked back to the range, and started sweeping. Brass casings clinked under the bristles. Sweep, step, sweep. The rhythm was meditative, calming. He understood now. Kenneth hadn't been hiding from the world. He'd been practicing for it, every single day, staying ready, staying sharp, staying humble. So when the call came, when the world needed him again, he'd be ready. Not with arrogance, with stillness. Thorne swept the entire range. Took him 2 hours. When he was done, He put the broom back, went home, and deleted the video from his phone. Kenneth's story wasn't his to tell. It was bigger than Instagram, bigger than likes and shares and going viral. It was about something that couldn't be captured on a screen. Respect, the real kind, the kind you earned by shutting up and paying attention. That night, Thorne couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Kenneth's eyes, that 1,000-yard stare, the look of a man who'd seen things, done things, things that couldn't be undone, and still found a way to be kind, to show mercy, to give second chances to stupid kids who didn't deserve them. Thorne got out of bed, sat at his desk, opened his laptop, typed in Red Ledger Protocol. Nothing came up. He tried different searches, different combinations. Nothing. It was like it didn't exist, which meant it was real. The things that don't exist are always the most real. He closed his laptop, looked at himself in the mirror, and didn't recognize the person staring back. Yesterday, he'd been the best, top of his class, elite sniper, the future of the Corps. Today, he was just a boy who'd learned he knew nothing. And somehow, that felt like progress. At 0500 the next morning, Thorne and his squad stood outside Vance's office. All of them were there, early, in perfect formation. Nobody said a word. Vance opened the door, looked at them, nodded once. "Follow me," he said. He led them to the base memorial, rows of stone markers, names carved in granite, Marines who'd given everything. "You're going to clean every single one of these," Vance said. "By hand, with toothbrushes if necessary. You're going to learn every name, every face, every story. You're going to understand what it means to be part of something bigger than yourself." He paused. "And when you're done, you're going to the VA hospital. You're going to sit with the old veterans. You're going to listen to their stories. You're going to learn what real sacrifice looks like." Thorne spoke up. "Master Gunnery Sergeant, permission to speak." "Granted." "We're ready, sir. We're ready to learn." Vance almost smiled. "Good, because the man you disrespected yesterday, he's the reason you're standing here. He's the reason any of us are standing here. And you're going to spend the next month figuring out why." They worked all day, cleaning stone, reading names, feeling the weight of history. And somewhere in a classified location, Kenneth Harding was doing what he'd always done. Being a Marine. Not for glory, not for recognition, but because when the call came, you answered. That's what heroes do. They show up, they do the work, and then they go back to sweeping floors. Because the work is never done. The mission is never over. And the Corps never sleeps. Semper Fi. Always faithful. Even when nobody's watching. Especially when nobody's watching. That's the lesson Kenneth taught them, without saying a word. That's the lesson they'd carry for the rest of their lives. And that's why years later, when people asked Sergeant Rex Thorne about the best shot he'd ever seen, he'd smile and say, "I once watched an old man with a broom teach me everything I needed to know about being a Marine." How'd he do that? He made an impossible shot, then went back to sweeping. That's it. That's everything. The SUV didn't stop at base headquarters. It didn't stop at the airfield. It drove straight through the main gate and onto Highway 17 heading north. Kenneth sat in the back seat. Morrison beside him. 2 agents in suits up front. Nobody spoke for the first 20 minutes. Kenneth watched the Carolina landscape blur past. Pine trees, gas stations, strip malls. Normal life. The kind of life he'd built for himself. Quiet. Invisible. Safe. Gone now. Morrison finally broke the silence. "I need to brief you on what's happening." "I figured," Kenneth said. Morrison pulled out a tablet, swiped through images, stopped on one, turned it toward Kenneth. "This is Captain David Reeves, Marine sniper, 29 years old, deployed to Syria 3 months ago as part of a classified reconnaissance unit." Kenneth looked at the photo. Young face, confident eyes, the same look Thorne had worn that morning. "Go on," Kenneth said. 4 days ago, Reeves and his spotter went dark during a routine surveillance op near the Turkish border. No radio contact, no emergency beacon, nothing. Morrison swiped to the next image. A grainy satellite photo, 2 bodies, desert terrain. We found them 72 hours later, single shots, both killed from extreme range, over 2,000 meters. Kenneth's jaw tightened. That's not routine. No, sir, it's not. Morrison swiped again. Another photo. This one showed a shell casing. Brass. With markings Kenneth recognized immediately. His blood went cold. That's a 338 Lapua Magnum, Kenneth said quietly. Soviet-era brass. Chinese primer. That combination hasn't been used since Vietnam, Morrison finished. Since Operation Ivory Snake. Since your last mission in 1972. The SUV suddenly felt smaller. The air thicker. Kenneth closed his eyes. Memories flooded back. Jungle canopy. Radio static. A voice in the dark. Ghost. 1 you are authorized to execute. Repeat, authorized to execute. He'd pulled that trigger 53 years ago, and the man on the receiving end should have been dead. He's alive, Kenneth whispered. Morrison nodded. We think so. You think, or you know. We know someone with his exact methodology is operating in Syria. Same ammunition, same range calculations, same everything, Kenneth interrupted. Because it's him. Nguyen Van Thieu, the White Spider. Morrison's eyes widened. You remember his name? I remember all their names, Kenneth said. Every single one. The SUV turned onto a private road. Trees closed in on both sides. No signs, no markers. Where are we going? Kenneth asked. Quantico, Intelligence Division, Black Site Facility. We've set up a tactical operations center. Everything we have on the White Spider is there. Kenneth looked out the window. I shot him. Center mass, through a gap in the trees no bigger than a dinner plate, from 1,500 meters, in the rain. I watched him fall. We know, sir. Your after-action report was very clear. Then how? We don't know, Morrison admitted. But we have evidence he survived. And now he's killing again. Marines, our Marines. And he's doing it with the same precision you had. Maybe better. That last word hung in the air like a challenge. Kenneth turned to look at Morrison. Better? The shots that killed Reeves and his spotter over 2,000 meters. In wind conditions that would make most snipers pack up and go home. Both headshots. Both instant kills. Kenneth absorbed this. You said Marines plural. How many? Morrison hesitated. How many? Kenneth repeated. 7, Morrison said quietly. In the last 6 months, all snipers. All killed from extreme range. All with the same ammunition signature. 7 Marines. 7 families destroyed. 7 futures erased. Kenneth's hands curled into fists. Why didn't you contact me sooner? We didn't make the connection until 3 days ago. The brass casings from the first 6 kills were never recovered. The enemy took them, but at the Reeves site something spooked them. They left in a hurry, left evidence behind. When our forensics team analyzed it, Morrison trailed off. They found the signature, Kenneth said. Yes, sir, your signature. The ballistics matched the casings we recovered from your missions in 71 and 72. Same weapon system, same shooter, or at least same training. The SUV pulled up to a gate. Armed guards checked IDs, waved them through. Beyond the gate stood a nondescript building. Concrete, no windows. The kind of place that didn't exist on any map. They parked, got out. Morrison led Kenneth inside, down a corridor, through 2 security checkpoints. Past offices where analysts stared at screens filled with data Kenneth couldn't begin to understand. They stopped at a conference room. Morrison opened the door. Inside, 5 people sat around a table. Military uniforms, civilian clothes. All of them looked up when Kenneth entered. All of them stood. Morrison made introductions. Everyone, this is Kenneth Harding. Mr. Harding, this is the task force. A woman in her 40s stepped forward. Major's oak leaves on her collar. Major Sarah Chen, Marine Intelligence. It's an honor, sir. Kenneth shook her hand. Just Ken. With all due respect, sir, you're not just anything. Next was a man in civilian clothes, thick glasses, looked like he hadn't slept in days. Dr. James Holbrook, ballistics specialist. I've studied your work for 15 years. This is incredible. I mean, meeting you is incredible. Not the circumstances. Obviously, the circumstances are terrible. I get it, Kenneth said. The others introduced themselves. Captain Rodriguez, Sergeant First Class Miller, and a younger man who couldn't have been older than 25. CIA credentials. Name tag said Walsh. Walsh didn't smile, didn't extend his hand, just nodded once. Kenneth didn't like him immediately. Morrison gestured to the table. Please sit. Kenneth sat. The others followed. Major Chen pulled up a presentation on the screen. Maps, photos, timelines. Here's what we know, she began. 7 Marine snipers killed over 6 months, all in different locations across Syria and Iraq, all from extreme range, all with the same ammunition. She clicked through images. Each one showed a different Marine, different age, different background, all dead. The pattern suggests a single operator, Chen continued. Someone with extraordinary skill, someone who knows our tactics, our movements, our weaknesses. Kenneth studied the screen. These kills are spread out, different regions, different times of day. How's he moving around without being detected? That's the question, Walsh said. His voice was flat, cold. We think he has local support. Maybe Syrian government, maybe Russian assets, maybe both. Kenneth looked at him. You think, or you know? Walsh met his gaze. We don't deal in certainties at my pay grade, Mr. Harding. We deal in probabilities. Then what's the probability he's working alone? Walsh smiled. It wasn't friendly. 0. Major Chen cleared her throat. We've identified 3 possible locations where the shooter might be operating from, all within a 100-kilometer radius of the last kill site. She highlighted areas on the map: mountains, urban centers, desert. We're planning a reconnaissance operation, 3 teams, each one assigned to a sector. The goal is to find him before he kills again. And then, Kenneth asked. Morrison answered. And then we eliminate the threat. Kenneth nodded slowly. You want me to train the teams? No, sir, Morrison said. We want you to lead them. The room went silent. Kenneth stared at Morrison. I'm 82 years old. You made a perfect shot this morning at 1,000 yards. That was stationary. This is combat. You've done combat. 50 years ago. Morrison leaned forward. With all due respect, sir, you're the only person alive who's faced this enemy. You know how he thinks, how he moves, how he kills. We need that knowledge. Our Marines need that knowledge. Kenneth looked around the table. Young faces, determined faces, faces that believed he could save them. He wanted to say no, wanted to walk out, go back to his broom and his quiet life, but he saw the photos on the screen. 7 Marines, 7 kids who'd never go home, and he remembered the promise he'd made 53 years ago. I'll kill every last one of them, every enemy sniper who targets our boys. I'll hunt them until there's none left. He'd made that promise to a dying Lance Corporal named Danny Torres, 19 years old, shot through the chest by the White Spider. Kenneth had held Danny's hand as the light faded from his eyes. I'll get him, Danny, I promise. I'll get him. He'd thought he kept that promise in 1972. Apparently he was wrong. Kenneth looked at Morrison. I'll do it, but I need full operational control. No interference, no second guessing. I run this my way. Done, Morrison said immediately. And I want Vance. Master Gunnery Sergeant Vance. Yes, he's the only Marine on that base who looked at me this morning and saw what I really was. That kind of instinct is rare. I need him. Morrison nodded. I'll have him transferred immediately. One more thing, Kenneth said. The boy. Thorne. The one who gave me his rifle. What about him? He's got talent. Raw talent. But more than that, he's got heart. He was an arrogant little punk this morning. But when he realized what he'd done, he didn't make excuses. He owned it. That's the kind of Marine I need. Walsh spoke up. You want to bring a disgraced sergeant on a black ops mission? Kenneth turned to him. He's not disgraced, he's learning. There's a difference. He disrespected you. And I gave him a second chance. Same as someone once gave me. Same as I'm giving you the chance to shut up and let me do my job. Walsh's face flushed red. Morrison suppressed a smile. Thorne is yours, sir. Anyone else? The whole squad. All 8 of them. They work together. Train together. I want that cohesion. They're green, Chen said. None of them have combat experience outside of training exercises. Then this'll be one hell of a training exercise, Kenneth said. He stood up. Everyone else stood too. I need 12 hours, Kenneth said. 12 hours to rest plan and get my head right. Then I need a transport to Syria, and I need the best tactical gear you have. None of that heavy plate carrier nonsense. I need to move light and fast. Morrison nodded. You'll have everything you need. Good. Kenneth headed for the door, stopped, turned back. One question. How do you know the White Spider will strike again? Major Chen looked uncomfortable. Because he sent us a message. Kenneth's blood chilled. Show me. Chen pulled up an image, a photograph, taken from a distance. It showed a sniper position, empty brass casings arranged in a pattern. The pattern formed a number 47, Kenneth's confirmed kill count from Vietnam. He knows you're alive, Morrison said quietly, and he wants you to know he's alive too. This isn't just about killing Marines anymore. This is personal. This is about finishing what started 50 years ago. Kenneth stared at the screen, at that number, at the taunt from a ghost he thought he'd buried. He wants me to come, Kenneth said. Yes, sir. Good. Kenneth's voice was cold as winter steel. Because I'm coming. He walked out of the conference room, down the hallway, past the analysts and their screens. An aide approached him. Young woman. Lieutenant's bars. Mr. Harding, I'll show you to your quarters. You can rest there. Kenneth followed her. They took an elevator down 2 floors, walked another corridor, stopped at a door. Inside you'll find everything you need, the lieutenant said. Fresh clothes, toiletries. There's a phone if you need anything. Thank you, Kenneth said. She left. Kenneth entered the room. It was sparse. Bed, desk, small bathroom, a window that looked out onto nothing. He sat on the bed, felt the weight of 70 years pressing down on him. His hands were shaking now that nobody could see. He looked at those hands, spotted with age, veins prominent, skin thin as paper. These hands had killed 47 men, maybe more. He'd lost count after Cambodia. These hands had saved lives too, pulled wounded Marines from firefights, applied tourniquets, loaded bodies onto helicopters. These hands had swept floors for 3 years. Quiet work, honest work, penance maybe. And now these hands were going back to war. Kenneth closed his eyes, breathed deep, in through the nose, out through the mouth, the way he'd learned in 1967 at Scout Sniper School. Control the breath, control the heartbeat, control everything. He lay back on the bed, stared at the ceiling. Sleep didn't come easy. It never did. Not since Vietnam, but eventually exhaustion won. And Kenneth dreamed of rice paddies and rain and a man in black pajamas falling from a tree. Falling but never hitting the ground. Just falling forever. 6 hours later, Kenneth woke to a knock on the door. He sat up, checked his watch. 1900 hours. Come in, he called. The door opened. Master Gunnery Sergeant Vance stepped inside. Kenneth stood. That was fast. Colonel Morrison doesn't waste time, Vance said. I was on a helicopter 30 minutes after you left Camp Lejeune. They brief you. Enough. Marine snipers being hunted. Enemy operative from your past. Black Ops mission to Syria. Vance paused. They didn't tell me you'd be leading it. Problem? Kenneth asked. No, sir. Opposite of a problem. I'd follow you into hell if you asked. Kenneth smiled. Might not be that far off. Vance stepped closer, lowered his voice. Permission to speak freely, sir. Always. Are you sure you're up for this? No disrespect intended, but this isn't a shooting range. This is combat. Real combat. Against an enemy who's been killing trained Marines like they're targets in a gallery. Kenneth appreciated the honesty. You saw me shoot this morning. I did. It was incredible. But shooting and fighting aren't the same thing. I know. Kenneth sat back down on the bed. I'm old Vance. I'm not stupid. I know what I can do and what I can't. I can't run 5 miles. Can't do 100 push-ups. Can't clear a building the way you young guys do. He looked up at Vance. But I can shoot. I can plan. I can think like the enemy because I've been the enemy. And I can teach your boys how to stay alive long enough to learn the difference between being a good shot and being a Marine. That's what I can do. Vance nodded slowly. Fair enough, sir. Besides, Kenneth added, you'll be there. You'll do the running and the clearing. I'll do the thinking and the shooting. We'll make a good team. Yes, sir. Vance pulled out a folded paper. I brought the roster. Thorne and his squad. All 8 of them have been temporarily reassigned to Task Force Ghost. That's what they're calling this operation. Ghost, Kenneth repeated. Appropriate. They're being transported here now. Should arrive by 2200 hours. Kenneth stood. Good. I want to talk to them before we deploy. They need to understand what they're getting into. What are they getting into, sir? Kenneth looked at Vance. Really looked at him. This man had 30 years of service, had seen combat, had earned every ribbon on his chest. But even he didn't fully understand. They're getting into the kind of war that doesn't exist, Kenneth said. The kind that doesn't make the news, doesn't get medals, doesn't get remembered. The kind where you do terrible things for the right reasons and then spend the rest of your life wondering if the reasons were actually right at all. Vance absorbed this. Sounds like you've thought about that a lot. Every day, Kenneth said, for 50 years. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Kenneth clapped Vance on the shoulder. Come on, let's get some food. I need to eat before I brief the team. Can't save the world on an empty stomach. They left the room, walked to the cafeteria. It was mostly empty. A few analysts grabbing late dinner, some soldiers finishing night shift. Kenneth and Vance got food, sat at a corner table. Kenneth ate slowly, mechanically, not tasting anything. Vance watched him. You mind if I ask you something personal, sir? Depends on the question. Why'd you become a janitor after everything you did? Everything you were? Why that job? Kenneth set down his fork. You ever hear the Buddhist saying about the monk who sweeps the temple? No, sir. The student asks the monk, why do you sweep the temple every day? It just gets dirty again. And the monk says, I don't sweep the temple to clean it. I sweep it to practice being present. Vance frowned. I don't follow. After Vietnam, I couldn't be still, Kenneth explained. Couldn't sit, couldn't relax, always looking for threats, always ready for a fight. It was destroying me, destroying my marriage, destroying everything. He picked up his fork again, pushed food around his plate. So I found a job that forced me to be present, to focus on one simple task. Sweeping, just sweeping, day after day, until the noise in my head got quieter, until I could breathe again. Did it work? Vance asked. Kenneth smiled sadly. For a while. Yeah, it worked. And now the noise is back, loud as ever. They finished eating in silence. At 2200 hours, Thorne and his squad arrived. Kenneth met them in a briefing room. The 8 Marines stood at attention. Clean uniforms, nervous faces. Thorne looked like he hadn't slept. Kenneth gestured to chairs. Sit down. They sat. Kenneth stood at the front of the room, Vance beside him. You're probably wondering why you're here, Kenneth began. Why you got pulled from Camp Lejeune and flown to a facility that doesn't exist for a mission nobody's told you about. Nods around the room. Here's the truth, Kenneth continued. Marines are being hunted. Snipers. Good ones. Killed from ranges most shooters can't even comprehend. 7 dead in 6 months. And the killer is someone I thought I put in the ground 50 years ago. He let that sink in. We're going to Syria. We're going to find him. And we're going to end this. That's the mission. It's Black Ops. It's dangerous. And there's a very real chance some of you won't come back. Kowalski raised his hand. Why us, sir? You're just what? Kenneth interrupted. Just Marines, just snipers, just the future of the Corps. He stepped closer to them. You're here because you have potential, because you need to learn, and because I asked for you specifically. Every one of you. Thorne looked shocked. Even after this morning, especially after this morning, Kenneth said. You showed me something today, Sergeant. You showed me humility. You showed me the ability to learn from mistakes. That's rarer than good aim. And that's what I need on this mission. He turned to address the whole group. This isn't like anything you've trained for. This isn't a drill. This isn't a qualification. This is war. Old-fashioned, ugly, brutal war. The kind where hesitation gets you killed, where one mistake means your buddy goes home in a box. We understand, sir, Thorne said. No, Kenneth said firmly. You don't. Not yet, but you will. He pulled up a map on the screen. Syria. Highlighted areas. The enemy we're hunting is called the White Spider. That was his code name in Vietnam. North Vietnamese sniper, trained by the Soviets. One of the best I ever faced. I shot him in 1972. Watched him fall. Confirmed the kill. Kenneth paused. Turns out I was wrong. He survived. And now he's back. Older, maybe better. Definitely angry. And he knows I'm coming for him. How? Someone asked. Because he left me a message, taunting me, challenging me. This isn't just about killing Marines anymore. This is personal. This is about finishing what we started half a century ago. The room was dead silent. So here's what's going to happen, Kenneth continued. We deploy in 18 hours, 3 teams. Vance leads Team 1. I lead Team 2. Sergeant Thorne, you'll lead Team 3. Thorne's eyes widened. Me, sir? You wanted responsibility. You got it. Let's see what you do with it. Kenneth pointed to the map. Each team gets a sector. We'll run coordinated reconnaissance. Look for patterns, sniper hides, weapon caches, anything that might tell us where the White Spider is operating from. And when we find him, Vance asked. Kenneth's expression went cold. When we find him, I finish what I started. He looked at each Marine in turn. Questions. Silence. Good. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start training. You have 18 hours to learn everything I know about staying alive in a war zone. Don't waste them. The Marines stood, filed out, all except Thorne. He lingered by the door. Kenneth noticed. Something on your mind, Sergeant? Thorne stepped forward. I wanted to say thank you, sir, for giving me this chance. After what I did, what you did was make a mistake. Kenneth interrupted. We all make mistakes. The question is what you do after. You owned it. You learned from it. That's all any of us can do. Still, Thorne said, I was a punk, and you showed me mercy. No, Kenneth said. I showed you reality. Mercy would have been sending you home. Reality is bringing you to war and letting you prove you're more than that punk from this morning. Thorne nodded. I won't let you down, sir. I know, Kenneth said. Now go, get rest. Tomorrow's going to hurt. Thorne left. Vance remained. You really think he's ready to lead a team? No, Kenneth admitted. But he will be, or he'll die. Either way, he'll learn. That's harsh, sir. That's war. They spent the next 16 hours in hell. Kenneth drove them harder than any drill instructor they'd ever faced. Not with screaming, not with punishment, with repetition, with precision, with the kind of cold, relentless focus that separated the living from the dead. Again, Kenneth said. Thorne was on his belly for the 40th time. Rifle up, eye to scope, breathing controlled. Winds shifted, Kenneth said. 2 clicks right. Compensate. Thorne adjusted. Fired. The target pinged. Off by 3 inches, Kenneth said. In combat, that's your spotter's head. Again. They ran scenarios. Urban combat, desert operations, mountain warfare. Kenneth didn't just teach them how to shoot. He taught them how to think. The rifle is the last resort. he told them during a break. Your brain is the primary weapon. You see everything, process everything, calculate everything. By the time you pull that trigger, the enemy should already be dead in your mind. The bullet is just making it official. Kowalski wiped sweat from his face. How do you do that, sir? How do you stay that calm? Practice, Kenneth said. 50 years of practice. And even then, I still get scared. You, another Marine said. You get scared. Every time, Kenneth admitted. Fear keeps you alive. It's what you do with that fear that matters. You can let it freeze you. Or you can let it sharpen you, make you faster, smarter, better. He stood up. Water break's over. Back to work. They groaned but obeyed. Vance pulled Kenneth aside. They're exhausted. Good, Kenneth said. Better exhausted here than dead there. They're not machines, sir. No, but the white spider is. And if they can't match his level, they'll die. Simple as that. Vance wanted to argue. Couldn't. Because Kenneth was right. At 400 hours, they loaded onto a C-130. Gear packed, weapons secured, minds focused. The flight to Syria took 11 hours, refueling stop in Germany, then straight into the night. Kenneth sat near the back, eyes closed but not sleeping, never sleeping. Thorne sat across from him, watching, studying. Finally, Thorne spoke over the engine noise. Sir, can I ask you something? Kenneth opened his eyes. What? That shot this morning, at the range. You said it was easy, but it wasn't, was it? Kenneth smiled slightly. No, it wasn't. So why'd you say it was? Because compared to what I've had to do, it was easy. No one shooting back. No pressure. No lives on the line. Just me and a target and perfect conditions. Kenneth leaned forward. But you want to know the truth, that shot scared the hell out of me. Because I didn't know if I could still do it. Didn't know if my eyes were still good enough. If my hands were still steady enough. If my mind was still sharp enough. And when I pulled that trigger for a split second, I thought I'd miss. Thought I'd embarrass myself in front of you boys. Thought I'd prove that I was just an old man pretending to be something I used to be. But you didn't miss, Thorne said. No, I didn't. And that scared me even more. Why? Kenneth's expression darkened. Because it meant I was still good at killing. Still good at the one thing I'd spent 50 years trying to forget. And now here I am. Flying back into it. Like I never left. Thorne didn't know what to say to that. Kenneth closed his eyes again. Get some sleep, Sergeant. We land in 2 hours. They touched down at a classified airbase in eastern Syria. No names, no signs, just concrete and sand and armed guards who didn't ask questions. 3 vehicles waited. Armored SUVs, black, dusty, anonymous. Morrison was there, along with Major Chen and a team of support personnel. Welcome to the sandbox, Morrison said as they unloaded. Intelligence update, we've had 2 more possible sightings in Sector Bravo. Locals reporting a man matching the white spider's description. Older, Asian features. Moves alone but well armed. Kenneth's jaw tightened. How old are these sightings? 12 hours, Chen said. Then he's already moved. He knows we're here. How could he know? Walsh asked. He'd flown in separately, still had that cold, calculating look. Kenneth turned to him. Because that's what I would do. Monitor enemy communications. Watch for patterns. Unusual troop movements. Aircraft landings. He's been doing this for 50 years. He knows the game. So what do? Morrison asked. We don't chase him, Kenneth said. We make him come to us. How? Kenneth smiled. It wasn't warm. We give him a target he can't resist. They set up a forward operating base in an abandoned factory, 3 miles from the last known sighting. Good sight lines, multiple exits, defensible. Kenneth gathered the 3 teams, laid out the plan. Team 1, your recon. Vance, take your boys and scout a 5-click radius. I want eyes on every sniper hide, every elevated position, every possible approach. Report everything. Vance nodded. Team 3, your security. Thorne, set up a perimeter, rotating watches. No one sleeps without someone watching their back. Yes, sir, Thorne said. Team 2 is bait. Me and 2 volunteers. We're going to make ourselves visible. Draw him out. Make him think he's got an easy shot. That's suicide, Walsh said. Kenneth looked at him. That's strategy. He wants me. I give him what he wants, but on my terms. And if he takes the shot, Morrison asked, then we find out real quick if I'm still faster than him. The room went quiet. Kowalski raised his hand. I'll volunteer, sir, for Team 2. Kenneth studied him. Why? Because you gave me a second chance this morning. Let me earn it. Another Marine stood. Rodriguez. Me too, sir. Kenneth nodded. All right. Kowalski, Rodriguez, you're with me. Everyone else gear up. We move in 30 minutes. They dispersed. Kenneth checked his rifle. A custom M40A6. Same model Thorne had used. But this one was tuned specifically for him. Scope zeroed. Trigger pull adjusted. Stock fitted to his shoulder. It felt like coming home. Vance approached. You sure about this, sir? No, Kenneth admitted, but it's the best play we have. You really think he'll take the bait? Kenneth worked the bolt. Smooth action. Perfect. I know he will, because it's what I would do. They moved out at Euro 600, dawn breaking over the Syrian desert. Team 1 spread out in pairs, moving silent, professional. Vance had trained them well. Team 3 established the perimeter, fighting positions dug, fields of fire cleared. Thorne ran the operation like he'd been doing it his whole life. Kenneth was impressed. Team 2 took position on the factory's roof. 3 men, 3 rifles. Exposed, but not careless. Kenneth scanned the horizon through his scope. Miles of nothing, sand and rock and the occasional structure. Perfect country for a sniper. Perfect country to die. Hours passed. The sun climbed. Heat became oppressive. Kenneth didn't move, didn't fidget, just watched. Kowalski shifted his weight. How long do we wait, sir? As long as it takes. What if he doesn't show? He'll show. Rodriguez keyed his radio. Team 2 to Team 1, any movement. Vance's voice crackled back. Negative. We've got nothing. More hours. The sun peaked, started its descent. Kenneth's mind drifted. Back to Vietnam. Back to another rooftop. Another wait. He'd been 24 then. Young. Confident. Certain the world made sense. He'd learned different. The radio crackled. Team 1 to all stations. We've got movement. Southeast. 1,000 meters. Single individual. Moving toward your position. Kenneth's heart rate didn't change. Didn't spike. Just stayed steady. Controlled. Description, he said into the radio. Male. Older. Dark clothing. Carrying a long case. Could be a rifle. Could be, Kenneth asked. Visual is obscured. He's using cover. Moving smart. Kenneth smiled. That's him. He adjusted his position. Sighted in on the southeast approach. Kowalski whispered, I don't see anything. You will, Kenneth said. Then he saw it. A flash. Brief. Sunlight reflecting off glass. A scope. Contact, Kenneth said calmly into the radio. Sniper, southeast. Range. 1,500 meters. Jesus, Rodriguez breathed. That's quiet, Kenneth ordered. He watched through his own scope. Tracking. Calculating. The figure moved again. Closer now. Using terrain. Using shadows. He's good, Kowalski said. He's better than good, Kenneth replied. He's me. The radio crackled. Team 3 to Team 2. We've got eyes on your target. Permission to engage. Negative, Kenneth said. Hold fire. This one's mine. But something was wrong. Kenneth felt it in his gut. That old instinct. The one that had kept him alive through 3 tours. The figure was too visible. Moving too predictably. It's not him, Kenneth said suddenly. What? Rodriguez said. It's not him. It's a decoy. Kenneth swung his rifle around. Scanned the opposite direction. North. Where no one was looking. And there. On a ridgeline. 2,000 meters out. a shape, barely visible against the rock. Northwest, Kenneth shouted into the radio. He's northwest. 2,000 meters, but it was too late. The shot came like thunder. Rodriguez jerked, fell backward, blood spraying. Kowalski screamed, scrambled to him. Kenneth didn't move. He sighted in, found the target, the real target, breathing out, heartbeat steady, finger on the trigger. Everything slowed down. He saw the white spider's position, saw the muzzle flash, saw the slight adjustment as the enemy prepared for a second shot. Kenneth fired first. The rifle kicked. The bullet flew, 2,000 meters, uphill, wind gusting. Kenneth watched through the scope, saw the impact, saw dust explode from the rock, saw the figure drop. Hit, Kenneth said into the radio. Target down. But he didn't believe it. Vance's voice. Team 1 moving to confirm. Stay put. Kenneth kept his scope on the ridgeline, watching, waiting. Below him, Kowalski was screaming. Rodriguez is hit. We need a medic. Kenneth finally looked down. Rodriguez was alive. Shoulder wound. Bad, but not fatal. Apply pressure, Kenneth ordered. Keep him conscious. He looked back through the scope. The ridgeline was empty. No body, no blood, no confirmation. Damn it, Kenneth whispered. Vance's voice crackled. Team 1 at target location. We've got nothing. No body, no blood, no brass, just disturbed dirt and a firing position. Kenneth's blood went cold. Say again. He's gone, sir. He was here. We can see the compressed area where he lay. But he's gone. Kenneth lowered his rifle, looked at the empty ridgeline. The white spider had baited him, used a decoy to draw Kenneth's attention, then took a shot at his team. And when Kenneth returned fire, the white spider had already displaced. Textbook counter-sniper tactics. The same tactics Kenneth had invented. All teams fall back to base, Kenneth ordered. We're compromised. Move now. They extracted under fire. Not from the white spider, from local militia who'd heard the shots and came investigating. Thorne's team provided suppressing fire. Vance's team carried Rodriguez. Kenneth covered the rear. They made it back to the factory. Barely. Morrison was waiting. What happened? Kenneth pushed past him. I underestimated him. That's what happened. Rodriguez is stable, a medic reported. Bullet passed through, clean wound. He'll survive. Good, Kenneth said. But his mind was elsewhere. He walked to a table, spread out a map, started marking positions. Morrison followed. Talk to me. He knew, Kenneth said. Knew exactly what I'd do, where I'd be, how I'd react. He set up a decoy, drew my attention, then took his shot from the opposite direction. So he's adapting to your tactics. No, Kenneth said. He's using my tactics. Against me. Everything I taught him, he's throwing back in my face. Morrison frowned. You taught him? Kenneth looked up, his face pale. Not directly, but my after-action reports from Vietnam, my methodology, my patterns. They were all classified. But if he had access... Kenneth trailed off. He's been studying you, Morrison finished. For 50 years. Yes. Walsh stepped forward. Then we're screwed. If he knows everything you know, we can't win. Kenneth's eyes hardened. He doesn't know everything. What doesn't he know? He doesn't know that I've changed, that I'm not the same sniper I was in 72, that I've learned patience, learned restraint, learned that sometimes the best shot is the one you don't take. Kenneth pointed to the map. He made a mistake today. He wanted to kill Rodriguez. Could have gone for me. Could have ended this. But he went for the easier target. Why? Silence. Because he's angry, Kenneth said. Emotional. I embarrassed him in Vietnam, shot him, and left him for dead. That kind of wound doesn't heal. Not physically and not psychologically. He wants revenge. And revenge makes you sloppy. How do we use that? Vance asked. Kenneth smiled. We give him more reasons to be angry. We make him come to us, make him make mistakes, and when he does, we end this. Thorne spoke up. With all due respect, Sir Rodriguez almost died. We can't keep doing this. Can't keep using ourselves as bait. You're right, Kenneth said. So we changed tactics. No more bait. No more predictable movements. From now on, we hunt him the old way, the patient way. We track, we wait, we become ghosts. Morrison nodded slowly. How long will that take? As long as it takes, Kenneth said. Could be days, could be weeks, but we don't leave until he's dead. For real this time. They worked through the night, planning, preparing. Kenneth assigned new sectors, new patterns, random movements, nothing predictable, nothing the white spider could anticipate. He's good, Kenneth told his teams, but he's not supernatural. He can't be everywhere at once. He needs food, water, rest, supply lines. Those are his weaknesses. We find those, we find him. Over the next 3 days, they became shadows, moving at night, sleeping in shifts, never in the same place twice. Vance's team found a weapons cache, Chinese-made ammunition, Soviet-era rifles, and fresh footprints leading north. He's moving, Vance reported over encrypted comms. Heading toward the mountains. Kenneth studied the terrain. He's looking for elevation, better sight lines. He knows we're hunting him now. He's trying to gain the advantage. Do we follow? Thorne asked. No, Kenneth said. We get ahead of him, cut him off, force him into terrain of our choosing. They moved fast, drove through the night, reached the mountain pass before dawn, and set their trap. 3 positions, overlapping fields of fire, no escape routes. This is it, Kenneth said. This is where we end it. They waited. Hours passed. The sun rose. Heat returned. Kenneth lay prone on a rocky outcrop, rifle steady, eyes scanning. And then he saw him. A figure, moving through the pass. Cautious, deliberate. The white spider. Kenneth's breath caught. After 50 years, after all this time, there he was, older, gray hair, but the same movements, the same predatory grace. Kenneth's finger touched the trigger, but he didn't fire, because something was wrong. The figure was too exposed, too careless. It's another decoy, Kenneth said into the radio. Are you sure? Morrison asked from the command post. Yes, he's... The radio exploded with static. Then Thorne's voice, panicked. Contact, we're under fire, southeast ridge. He's... The transmission cut off. Kenneth's blood turned to ice. Team 3 report, silence. Team 3 respond, nothing. Kenneth was already moving, scrambling down from his position, running toward Thorne's location. Vance met him halfway. I've got 3 men heading to Team 3. What are your orders? Kenneth didn't slow down. We go loud, full assault, find our boys, kill anything that moves. They reached Thorne's position 5 minutes later. 2 Marines down, not dead but wounded. Leg shots, painful but survivable. Thorne was behind cover, firing at something Kenneth couldn't see. Kenneth slid in beside him. Report? He's up there. Thorne pointed to a cliff face. Took out Davidson and Miller in 2 shots. I've been suppressing, but I can't get an angle. Kenneth looked up, saw the position. Perfect sniper hide, carved into the rock. Natural cover. How many shooters? Kenneth asked. Just 1. Has to be him. Kenneth thought fast. Vance, take your team and flank left. I'll go right. Thorne, keep him pinned. Don't let him reposition. They moved. Kenneth climbed, his old legs screaming, his lungs burning, but his mind clear. He reached a ledge, looked across the cliff face, saw the sniper hide, saw the rifle barrel protruding, saw the shape behind it. Kenneth raised his rifle, sighted in, but before he could fire, the figure moved, stood up, turned to face Kenneth directly. And Kenneth saw his face. Asian features, weathered skin, eyes like black stones. The white spider. They locked eyes across 50 meters, neither moved, neither fired. Then the white spider smiled, a cold, terrible smile, and disappeared into the rock face. Kenneth scrambled forward, reached the position. It was empty. A tunnel, leading into the mountain. Dark, endless. "Damn it!" Kenneth shouted, Vance's voice on the radio. "We've lost him, sir. He's in the caves." Kenneth stared into the darkness. The white spider had been right there, right in front of him, and he'd escaped again. Kenneth's hands shook with rage. 50 years. 50 years of waiting, of haunting, of unfinished business, and it still wasn't over. Morrison's voice crackled over the radio. "All teams fall back, regroup at base. We'll reassess." Kenneth didn't move, kept staring into the tunnel. "Sir," Thorne approached carefully. "We need to go." "He's in there," Kenneth said quietly. "Right now, in the dark, waiting. Then we'll come back, with more men, better equipment." Kenneth shook his head. "By then he'll be gone. You don't understand. This is it. This is the moment. I go in now or I lose him forever." "That's suicide, sir. Those tunnels could go on for miles. He knows them. We don't. He'll pick us off one by one." Kenneth knew Thorne was right, but he also knew the white spider, knew the old sniper was injured, or tired, or running low on ammunition. Otherwise, he would have taken the shot, would have killed Kenneth when he had the chance. No, the white spider was vulnerable, finally vulnerable, and Kenneth had one chance to end this. "Everyone fall back," Kenneth ordered. "That's an order." "Sir," Vance said, "I'm going in alone, just me and him, the way it should have been 50 years ago." "Kenneth, don't do this," Morrison said over the radio. "That's not the mission. The mission is to neutralize the threat. We can do that with air support. Cave busters. Seal him in." "And kill how many civilians?" Kenneth shot back. "These mountains are full of refugees. Farmers. Kids. You want their blood on your hands." Silence from Morrison. "I didn't think so," Kenneth said. "This is the only way. One old man, one old ghost. We finish this face to face." He looked at his team, at Thorne, at Vance, at the young faces who'd learned so much in so little time. "If I'm not back in 2 hours, seal the entrance and go home." "Sir," Thorne started. "That's an order, Sergeant." Kenneth checked his rifle, checked his sidearm, checked his knife. Then he stepped into the darkness, and the mountain swallowed him whole. The darkness swallowed Kenneth whole. No light, no sound except his own breathing and the scrape of his boots on stone. He clicked on his tactical flashlight. The beam cut through the black, revealing a narrow passage carved by water and time. The walls pressed close, the ceiling low enough he had to duck. Kenneth moved forward, rifle up, senses screaming. Every shadow could be death. Every corner could be the end. He'd trained for this in '68. Close quarters combat, tunnel warfare. Vietnam had been full of it. Viet Cong hiding in complexes that stretched for miles underground. Kenneth had hated it then, hated it now. But this wasn't about preference. This was about finishing what he'd started. The passage opened into a larger chamber. Kenneth swept his light across the space, empty, but fresh boot prints in the dust, leading deeper. He followed. The tunnel branched, left or right. Kenneth studied both passages. The left showed more tracks. Obvious. Too obvious. He went right. The passage narrowed again, tighter, harder to maneuver. Kenneth's heart hammered, but his breathing stayed controlled. In through the nose, out through the mouth. The old rhythm. A sound ahead. Faint. Like metal scraping stone. Kenneth froze. Listened. Nothing. He moved forward. 1 step. 2. 3. The rifle cracked. The muzzle flash lit the tunnel like lightning. The bullet screamed past Kenneth's head so close he felt the heat. Kenneth dropped, rolled, returned fire blindly into the dark. His bullets sparked off stone, ricocheted, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. Then silence. Kenneth's ears rang. His light had fallen, rolled away. The beam pointed uselessly at the wall. He lay in darkness, listening, waiting. A voice echoed from somewhere ahead, accented English, rough, amused. "You are slower, old friend." Kenneth's blood chilled. That voice. He'd heard it once, 53 years ago. Through a radio intercept, North Vietnamese communication, the white spider. You're not exactly fast yourself, Kenneth called back. Or you wouldn't have missed. A laugh. Cold. I did not miss. I chose not to kill you. Not yet. We have much to discuss first. Kenneth crawled forward, retrieved his light, kept it off. We've got nothing to discuss, Kenneth said. You killed 7 Marines. That's all I need to know. 7? The voice moved, echoing, impossible to pinpoint. I have killed many more than 7. Russians, Chinese, Americans. All who came to my homeland thinking they could win. All who learned they could not. Kenneth shifted position, moved left, tried to triangulate the voice. Vietnam was a long time ago, Kenneth said. This isn't about the war. This is about revenge. Is it? The voice came from a different direction now. Or is it about honor? About finishing what we began? You shot me, Kenneth Harding, left me to die in the rain. Do you remember? Kenneth remembered. December 1972, a village outside Da Nang. 3 days of surveillance. 1 shot. 1 chance. He'd taken it. I remember, Kenneth said. I also remember you killed 19 of my Marines before I found you. Good men. Kids. Barely old enough to vote. They were soldiers, as was I. As were you. We did what soldiers do. No, Kenneth said firmly. We did what snipers do. We killed from a distance. Never saw their faces. Never heard their last words. Never had to live with the weight of it. But you did live with it, the voice said. I can hear it in your voice. The guilt, the shame, the endless question, was it worth it? Kenneth's jaw tightened. Every day. I ask myself every day. And what answer do you find? That I did my duty, protected my brothers, came home alive. That's all any of us can do. Then why did you become a janitor? The voice was closer now, somewhere in the dark. Why did you hide if you were so certain your actions were justified? Kenneth didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because the white spider was right. He'd spent 50 years sweeping floors because he couldn't face what he'd done. Couldn't reconcile the man he'd been with the man he wanted to be. You are like me, the white spider continued, broken, haunted, broken, unable to leave the war behind. The only difference is, I embraced it. You ran from it. I didn't run, Kenneth said. I survived. There's a difference. Is there? Kenneth moved again, closer to where he thought the voice originated. His hand found a rock. He threw it hard to his right. It clattered loudly. The rifle cracked. Muzzle flash revealed a silhouette, 20 feet ahead, behind a natural pillar. Kenneth fired 3 times. Fast, accurate. Stone exploded. Dust filled the air. But when the echoes died, there was no body, no blood, just empty space. Close, the white spider said from somewhere else entirely. But not close enough. Kenneth's frustration mounted. The old sniper was playing with him, using the tunnels, the echoes, the darkness, all advantages Kenneth had taught himself to exploit decades ago. You can't win, the white spider said. This is my domain. I have lived in these caves for 6 months. I know every passage, every hiding place, every killing field. Then why haven't you killed me already? Kenneth asked. Silence. Then, because I want you to understand, to see what you created. You were my teacher, Kenneth Harding, not in person, but through your actions, your tactics, your methodology. Soviet advisors showed me your after-action reports, studied your patterns, taught me to think like you, to move like you, to kill like you. Kenneth's chest tightened. I never wanted that. But it happened. You shaped me, made me into the weapon I became. And now that weapon has turned on your people. How does that feel? It feels like I need to fix my mistake, Kenneth said coldly. He moved forward, faster now, more aggressive. The tunnel opened into another chamber, larger. Kenneth's light revealed supplies, water bottles, ammunition crates, a sleeping roll, the white spider's base camp. Kenneth swept the room, empty. But the gear was fresh, recently used. He was close. "You will not fix anything," the white spider said. His voice came from above. Kenneth spun, looked up, a passage in the ceiling, a vertical shaft. Before Kenneth could react, a rifle barrel appeared, pointed down. Kenneth dove. The shot cracked. Bullet struck where he'd been standing. Kenneth rolled, came up firing. His bullet sparked off the shaft's rim. A grunt. Then the sound of boots scrambling away. Kenneth had hit him. Not a kill shot, but a hit. He was bleeding now. Weakening. Kenneth found a rope hanging from the shaft. Climbing equipment. The white spider's escape route. Kenneth grabbed the rope, started climbing. His old arms screaming, his shoulders burning, but he climbed. Hand over hand, foot by foot. He reached the top, pulled himself into another passage. Blood on the stone, a trail leading forward. Kenneth followed. The passage twisted, turned, narrowed. Kenneth had to crawl now, his rifle scraping stone, his breath coming harder, but he didn't stop. The white spider was wounded, desperate, making mistakes. This was it, the endgame. The passage opened suddenly. Kenneth emerged into a massive cavern. Natural light filtered from cracks above, enough to see, and there on the far side stood the white spider. He leaned against the wall, blood soaking his left side, rifle still in hand but lowered. Their eyes met across 50 feet of open space. For a long moment, neither moved. Just two old men, two ghosts, two warriors who should have died decades ago. The white spider spoke first. "You are persistent." "So are you," Kenneth said. "I am dying." The white spider pressed his hand to his wound. Blood seeped through his fingers. "Your bullet found kidney. I have perhaps 1 hour, maybe less." Kenneth kept his rifle trained on him. "Then it's over." "Is it?" The white spider smiled sadly. "Or does it continue another generation, another war, another Kenneth Harding and another white spider? The cycle never ends." "It can end," Kenneth said. "It has to end." "How?" "By killing me, I am one man. There are thousands more, trained by their wars, shaped by their traumas, waiting for their chance to prove they are the best, to prove they are survivors." Kenneth stepped closer. "You didn't have to kill those Marines. They weren't your enemy. The war was over." "The war is never over." The white spider's voice cracked. "Not for men like us. We are the war. We carry it inside us, in our bones, in our dreams, in every moment of silence when the ghosts come calling." He coughed, blood on his lips. "I killed those Marines because I wanted you to know I was alive. Wanted you to know that your bullet failed, that I survived when I should not have, that I spent 50 years becoming better than you, proving that the student had surpassed the master." "I was never your master," Kenneth said. "We were just soldiers, following orders, doing what we were told." "No." The white spider's eyes blazed. "We were gods. We held life and death in our hands. We decided who lived and who died. We saw the world through our scopes, and we judged it. That is power beyond measure. That is what I miss, what I crave, what I cannot live without." Kenneth understood then. The white spider wasn't just a sniper. He was an addict, addicted to the power, the control, the godlike authority of the trigger pull. Kenneth had felt it too, that dark seduction, that whisper in the back of the mind that said, "You are special, you are chosen, you are death itself." But Kenneth had learned to resist it, had spent 50 years pushing it down, sweeping it away. The white spider had embraced it. "I'm sorry," Kenneth said quietly. "Sorry you couldn't find peace." "Peace." The white spider laughed. Blood bubbled from his lips. "There is no peace for men like us. Only the war. Forever the war." He raised his rifle, weak, shaking. Kenneth could have shot him 10 times, could have ended it, but he didn't. He watched as the white spider's strength faded, as the rifle barrel dipped, as the old warrior's legs gave out, and he slid down the wall. Kenneth walked forward, knelt beside him. What was your real name? Kenneth asked. Before the war, before the white spider, what did your mother call you? The old sniper's eyes softened. Than. My name was Than. Than, Kenneth repeated. I'm Kenneth. Not Gunny, not Ghost One, just Kenneth. Than nodded weakly. I know. I have known for many years. Why did you really bring me here? Kenneth asked. Not to kill me. You could have done that outside. Why lead me into the dark? Than's breathing grew shallow. Because I wanted to see you. Face to face, man to man. Not through a scope, not across a battlefield. I wanted to know if you were real, or just another ghost. I'm real, Kenneth said. As real as you. Are we? Than's voice faded. Sometimes I think we died long ago, in that jungle, in that war. And everything since has been a dream, a long, terrible dream we cannot wake from. Kenneth felt tears prick his eyes. Maybe you're right. Than smiled. You are a good man, Kenneth Harding. Better than me. Better than most. I am glad it was you. Glad it ends this way. It didn't have to end at all, Kenneth said. You could have stopped, could have walked away, found peace like I tried to. But you did not find it, Than said. You only found a broom, and here you are, back in the war, because the war never lets us go. Kenneth couldn't argue, because it was true. The 7 Marines, Kenneth said. Did they die quickly? Yes, Than whispered. I gave them that mercy. 1 shot. No suffering. The same mercy I hoped you would give me all those years ago. Kenneth nodded. Then I'll give it to you now. He drew his sidearm. Than looked at it, then at Kenneth. Thank you. Than, Kenneth said. I'm sorry. For all of it. For the war. For the shot. For the 50 years you spent carrying this weight. You deserved better. We all did, Than said. But this is what we chose, and now we end it together, as brothers, as warriors, as ghosts finally finding rest. Kenneth pressed the barrel to Than's temple. Than closed his eyes. Do you believe in heaven, Kenneth? I don't know, Kenneth admitted. I hope so. I hope there's a place where the war doesn't follow, where we can just be who we were before the rifles, before the killing, before we became ghosts. I hope so too, Than said. Perhaps we will see each other there, and we will laugh about all this. 2 old fools playing war until the very end. Kenneth's finger touched the trigger. Goodbye, Than. Goodbye, Kenneth. And thank you for remembering my name. Kenneth pulled the trigger. The shot echoed through the cavern, then faded to silence. Than's body went still, his face peaceful, finally at rest. Kenneth sat there for a long time, his hand on Than's shoulder. 2 old warriors, 2 ghosts, connected by war and separated by everything else. Finally, Kenneth stood, his knees protesting, his body exhausted. He looked at Than one last time, then turned and walked toward the light filtering from above. He found a path, a crack in the rock, wide enough to squeeze through. He climbed, emerged into sunlight, into the Syrian mountains. Vance was waiting 30 feet away, rifle ready. When he saw Kenneth, he lowered it. Sir. Kenneth walked toward him. It's done. He's dead. Are you hurt? No. Kenneth stopped, looked back at the crack in the rock, at the darkness below. But I will be. Eventually. We all will be. Thorne and the rest of the team arrived. They'd disobeyed orders, stayed close, ready to extract Kenneth if needed. Kenneth should have been angry, should have disciplined them. Instead, he just nodded. Thank you. They hiked back to the base, silent, processing. Morrison met them at the entrance. Status. Target eliminated, Kenneth said flatly. Confirmed kill. The white spider is dead. Morrison exhaled. relief washing over his face. "My God, you did it! After 50 years, you finally did it." "Yes," Kenneth said, "I did it." But there was no triumph in his voice, no satisfaction, just exhaustion. He walked past Morrison, into the base, found a cot, collapsed onto it, and for the first time in 50 years, Kenneth Harding slept without nightmares. When he woke, 12 hours had passed. The team was preparing to leave. Mission complete. Time to go home. Kenneth packed his gear, checked his rifle, made sure everything was accounted for. Thorne approached. "Sir, can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "What happened down there in the caves?" Kenneth thought about lying, thought about keeping it simple, target neutralized, end of story. But these boys deserved the truth. "I met a man who could have been me," Kenneth said, "who walked the same path, made the same choices, but never found his way back, and I realized how lucky I am, how close I came to being him." "I don't understand," Thorne said. Kenneth looked at him, really looked at him, saw the young Marine he'd been, the arrogant kid with the rifle and the swagger. "You will," Kenneth said. "Someday, when you're my age and you look back at your life and you ask yourself if it was worth it, if the things you did mattered, if the people you saved outweighed the people you killed, and you won't have an answer, because there is no answer. There's just the question, forever, the question." Thorne absorbed this. "That sounds lonely, sir." "It is," Kenneth admitted, "but it's also honest. And honesty is all we have left when everything else is gone." They flew out that night, back to the airbase, then back to Germany, then back to the States. Kenneth slept most of the way. Real sleep, deep sleep, the kind he hadn't experienced in decades. When they landed at Quantico, Morrison met them on the tarmac. "Mr. Harding, on behalf of the Marine Corps and the United States government, thank you. You've done something remarkable, something that will save countless lives. We'd like to honor you, publicly recognize your service." "No," Kenneth interrupted. "We had a deal. My file stays sealed. No recognition, no medals, no parades." Morrison nodded. "I remember, and I'll keep my word. But I need to know, what will you do now? You've proven you're still capable, still valuable. We could use someone with your experience, training, consulting. Name your price." Kenneth smiled. "I already have a job." "Sweeping floors?" "Sweeping floors," Kenneth confirmed. "It's honest work, quiet work, and right now that's exactly what I need." Morrison extended his hand. "Then I wish you well, sir, and thank you for everything." Kenneth shook it. "Thank you for the opportunity, for letting me finish what I started." He turned to his team, to Vance, to Thorne, to all the young faces who'd learned so much in such a short time. "You boys are good Marines," Kenneth said. "Better than I was at your age. You've got the skills, the training, the heart. But remember what I taught you. The rifle is just a tool. It's the man behind it that matters. Be good men. Be honorable men. And when the war tries to follow you home, don't let it. Push it away. Sweep it away. Every single day." Thorne stepped forward, saluted. "It's been an honor, sir." Kenneth returned the salute. "The honor was mine, Sergeant." They left. Back to their units, back to their lives. Kenneth stood alone on the tarmac, watching them go. Morrison spoke quietly. "You changed them, you know. Changed the way they think about being Marines, about being men. That's a legacy worth having." "Maybe," Kenneth said. "Or maybe I just showed them what not to become. Either way, they'll figure it out." A car arrived. Black. Government plates. "Your ride," Morrison said. "It'll take you wherever you want to go." Kenneth got in, gave the driver an address. Camp Lejeune, the sniper range. They drove through the night, arrived at dawn. Kenneth walked onto the range, empty, quiet, peaceful. His broom leaned against the maintenance shed, right where he'd left it. He picked it up, felt the worn wood, the familiar weight, and he started sweeping. Brass casings clinked under the bristles. The rhythm returned. Meditation through repetition. Sweep. Step. Sweep. A car pulled up. Kenneth didn't look, just kept sweeping. Footsteps approached, stopped a few feet away. "You really came back." Kenneth turned. Colonel Morrison stood there, out of uniform, civilian clothes. "I said I would," Kenneth replied. Morrison nodded. "I thought you were being polite, thought you'd take the consulting job once you had time to think about it. But here you are, sweeping." "Here I am." Morrison pulled out a folder, handed it to Kenneth. "The White Spider's real file. Everything we found after you left. Thought you might want to see it." Kenneth took it, opened it. Photos, documents, a life story written in military records and intelligence reports. Then Nguyen, born 1944, recruited at 17, trained in Moscow, deployed to Vietnam at 19, 47 confirmed kills, wounded in 1972, left for dead, survived against impossible odds, recovered, disappeared, resurfaced in Syria 6 months ago. Kenneth read it all, then closed the folder. "What am I supposed to feel?" he asked. "I don't know," Morrison admitted. "Relief, closure, pride." Kenneth handed the folder back. "I feel tired, that's all, just tired." Morrison tucked the folder under his arm. "The Marines you saved, Rodriguez and the others, they want to thank you. They're planning a visit, hope that's okay." "It's fine," Kenneth said. "But tell them not to make a fuss. I'm just the janitor." Morrison smiled. "You're not just anything, Kenneth. You're a legend, whether you like it or not." He walked back to his car, drove away. Kenneth returned to his sweeping. Hours passed. The sun climbed. The range filled with Marines, training, practicing, living. None of them looked at the old man with the broom, and that was exactly how Kenneth wanted it. He swept until his shift ended, put the broom away, walked to his car. As he drove away from the base, he looked in the rearview mirror, saw the range shrinking behind him, saw the young Marines, the future of the Corps, and he smiled, because they didn't need ghosts. They needed leaders, teachers, examples of what it meant to serve with honor. Kenneth had been a ghost for 50 years. Maybe now he could be something else, something better, something human. He drove home. To the small apartment he'd rented 3 years ago. 1 bedroom, kitchen, bathroom, nothing fancy. But it was his. And it was quiet. And it was enough. He made dinner, ate alone, watched the news. 7 Marines killed in Syria. That's what the report said. Tragic training accident. Families notified. Investigation ongoing. No mention of the White Spider. No mention of Kenneth. No mention of the truth. Just another story, another statistic, another day in the endless war. Kenneth turned off the TV, went to bed, and slept peacefully. Because the war was over. Finally over. The White Spider was dead. The mission complete. The debt paid. And Kenneth Harding could finally rest. Not as a hero. Not as a legend. Just as a man who'd done his duty and survived. That was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. 3 weeks passed. Kenneth swept the range every morning. Same routine, same rhythm, same invisible existence. But something had changed. The Marines watched him now. Not openly, but out of the corner of their eyes. Curious, respectful. Word had spread somehow despite the classified nature of the mission. The janitor who'd gone to war. The old man who'd killed a legend. Kenneth ignored the looks, kept his head down, did his work. Then one morning, Thorne showed up. Kenneth was collecting brass when he heard boots approach. He looked up. Thorne stood there in full uniform. Behind him, his entire squad. All 8 of them. "Sir," Thorne said formally, "permission to speak." Kenneth leaned on his broom. "I'm not your commanding officer, Sergeant. You don't need permission." "Still feels wrong to just start talking," Thorne said. Kenneth smiled slightly. "Then talk. What brings you boys here?" Thorne glanced at his squad. They nodded encouragement. "We've been working with Master Gunnery Sergeant Vance," Thorne began. "Learning what it means to be Marines, real Marines, not just shooters. And we wanted to thank you for giving us that chance, for seeing something in us worth saving. You saved yourselves, Kenneth said. I just pointed you in the right direction. No, sir, you did more than that. You showed us what we were becoming, what we could turn into if we let arrogance replace honor, and you showed us mercy when we didn't deserve it. Kenneth set down his broom. What do you want, Sergeant, really want? Thorne straightened. We want you to train us, properly, not just shooting, everything. The mindset, the discipline, the wisdom. We want to learn from you before... He trailed off. Before I die, Kenneth finished. I'm 82, son. That day's coming sooner than later. That's why we're asking now, Thorne said. Sir, you're the best sniper the Corps has ever produced. Your knowledge shouldn't die with you. It should be passed down, preserved. Please. Kenneth looked at the 8 young faces, earnest, hungry, ready to learn. He thought about saying no, thought about keeping his distance, maintaining the separation between his past and his present. But then he remembered Than's last words. The cycle never ends. Another generation, another war. So maybe the cycle didn't have to continue. Maybe Kenneth could break it, not by running from his past, but by teaching these kids how to carry it differently. All right, Kenneth said. Every morning, 0500, before your regular duties. We meet here. I'll teach you what I know. But I'm warning you now, this won't be comfortable. I'm going to show you things about yourself you won't like. Things that'll make you question everything. Still interested? Yes, sir, they said in unison. Good. Dismissed. See you tomorrow. They left, energized, excited. Kenneth picked up his broom and went back to sweeping. But he was smiling. The next morning at 500, all 8 Marines stood on the range. Kenneth was already there. 2 coffee thermoses, some old folding chairs. Sit, Kenneth said. They sat. Kenneth poured coffee, handed out cups. First lesson, he began, being a sniper isn't about the rifle. It's about patience, about waiting, about being comfortable in silence while your mind screams at you to do something. Anything. Most people can't handle that, can't sit still with their own thoughts. That's why most people fail. He sipped his coffee. For the next hour, we're going to sit here. No talking, no phones, no distractions, just sitting, drinking coffee, watching the sun come up. And you're going to learn what silence really sounds like. Kowalski raised his hand. That's it, we just sit. That's it, Kenneth confirmed. Sounds easy, right? Let's see if you can do it. They sat in silence. At first, it was awkward. Marines fidgeting, shifting, glancing at each other. But Kenneth just sat there, calm, still, present. Slowly, the fidgeting stopped. The shifting ceased. The Marines settled into the silence, and something remarkable happened. They began to notice things. The sound of wind through the pine trees, the distant call of birds, the way light changed as the sun rose. The world became bigger and smaller at the same time. After an hour, Kenneth spoke. How do you feel? Weird one, Marine admitted, but also calm. That's the first step, Kenneth said. Learning to be still. Because when you're on a mission and you're lying in a hide for 18 hours, your mind will try to destroy you. It'll tell you to move, to adjust, to do something. And the moment you listen to it, you're dead. Stillness isn't just a tactic, it's survival. They met every morning. Same time, same place. Some days they sat in silence. Other days Kenneth taught them about reading wind, about calculating ballistics without computers, about understanding terrain. But mostly he taught them about themselves. You, Kenneth said, pointing to Rodriguez, who'd been wounded in Syria. What are you afraid of? Rodriguez blinked. Sir, simple question. What scares you? I don't know. Dying, I guess. Wrong, Kenneth said. You're not afraid of dying. If you were, you wouldn't have volunteered for Team 2. You're afraid of failing, of letting your brothers down, of being the weak link. That fear makes you hesitate. And hesitation kills. Acknowledge the fear, understand it, then set it aside. Can you do that? Rodriguez thought about it. I don't know. Then figure it out, Kenneth said, because if you can't control your fear, it'll control you. He turned to another Marine. You. What's your greatest strength? My shooting, sir. I can tell you wrong. Kenneth interrupted. Your shooting is a skill, not a strength. Your greatest strength is your loyalty. You'd die for these boys without thinking twice. That's powerful, but it's also dangerous. Because loyalty, without judgment, leads to following bad orders, to supporting the wrong causes, to becoming a weapon instead of a warrior. You need to learn when to follow and when to question. Understand? The Marine nodded slowly. Yes, sir. Week after week, Kenneth peeled back their layers, made them confront their weaknesses, their fears, their blind spots. It was brutal, honest, necessary, and they grew, not just as shooters, but as men. One morning, Vance joined them, sat down with a cup of coffee. Master Gunnery Sergeant, Thorne said. Didn't expect to see you here. Heard good things, Vance said. Figured I'd see what all the fuss is about. Kenneth nodded to him. Welcome. We were just about to discuss the difference between killing and murdering. The Marines shifted uncomfortably. There is a difference, Kenneth continued. Killing in combat is justified, legal, necessary, but it's still taking a life. And that weight doesn't care about justification. It doesn't care about orders or rules of engagement. It sits on your chest forever, and you have to decide how to carry it. He looked at each of them. Some men carry it with pride. They become the kills, define themselves by the body count. Those men are dangerous, not to the enemy, to themselves. They lose their humanity, become machines. Kenneth paused. Other men carry it with shame. They hate themselves, can't forgive themselves. They self-destruct, drink, drugs, suicide. The war kills them years after they come home. So what's the right way? Thorne asked. There is no right way, Kenneth said. There's just your way. You have to find a method that lets you live with what you've done. For me, it was sweeping floors, doing simple work, staying present. For you, it might be something else, but you have to find it before it destroys you. Vance spoke up. That's the realest thing I've heard in 30 years of service. Kenneth looked at him. You carry weight too. We all do, Vance said. Every Marine who's seen combat carries something. The question is whether we carry it together or alone. Together's better, Kenneth said, but it requires vulnerability, honesty. Most Marines aren't trained for that. We're trained to be hard, strong, unbreakable. But that's bullshit. We all break. The trick is breaking in ways that can be put back together. The conversation went deep that morning, deeper than any training manual, deeper than any official doctrine. They talked about loss, about guilt, about the moments that haunted them. And something shifted. The Marines realized they weren't just learning to be snipers. They were learning to be human beings who happened to carry rifles. That's when everything changed. One morning, Kenneth didn't show up. The Marines waited. 0500 came and went. 0530, 0600, no Kenneth. Thorne called his phone. No answer. Something's wrong, Thorne said. He's never late. Never. They drove to Kenneth's apartment, knocked on the door. No answer. Vance arrived, used his authority to get the building manager to open the door. They found Kenneth on the floor, conscious but weak, pale, sweating. Heart, Kenneth managed. Having a heart attack. Thorne called 911 while Vance knelt beside Kenneth. Hang on, sir. Ambulance is coming. Kenneth grabbed Vance's hand. Listen. Important. Need to tell you. Save your strength. No. Now. Kenneth's grip tightened. The broom. In my closet. Take it. Keep teaching them. Promise me. I promise, Vance said. But you're going to be fine. You're going to teach them yourself. Kenneth smiled weakly. I'm 82. My time was borrowed anyway. The ambulance arrived. Paramedics worked fast, got Kenneth stabilized, loaded him up. The Marines followed to the hospital. Kenneth went straight into surgery. Triple bypass. The damage was extensive. Years of stress. Years of carrying weight. The surgery took 6 hours. The Marines waited. All 8 of them. Plus Vance. Plus Morrison, who'd driven down from Quantico when he heard. Finally, a doctor emerged. He made it through surgery, but he's weak. Very weak. The next 48 hours are critical. "Can we see him?" Thorne asked. "Family only." "We are family," Thorne said firmly. The doctor looked at the determination on their faces, nodded. 5 minutes, one at a time. He needs rest. Thorne went in first. Kenneth lay in the hospital bed, tubes and wires everywhere, but his eyes were open. "Hey, kid," Kenneth whispered. "Hey, Gunny." Thorne's voice cracked. "You scared us." "Scared myself," Kenneth admitted. "Thought I was done. Thought this was it." "But you're not done. You're going to recover. Come back. Keep teaching us." Kenneth shook his head slightly. "I'm old, Thorne. This is a warning. Next time, I might not be so lucky." "Then don't have a next time," Thorne said. "Fight. Stay alive. We need you." "No," Kenneth said gently. "You don't. You already have everything you need. I've taught you the fundamentals. The rest is just repetition. You can do this without me." Tears streamed down Thorne's face. "I don't want to do it without you." Kenneth reached out, took Thorne's hand. "Remember what I said about carrying weight? This is yours to carry now. The responsibility, the knowledge, the duty to pass it on. You're ready for it." "I'm not." "Yes, you are. You just don't know it yet." The nurse came in. "Time's up." Thorne stood. "I'll see you tomorrow, sir." "I'll be here," Kenneth said. "Probably. Maybe. We'll see." Each Marine took their turn, said their piece, received their final lesson. When Vance went in, Kenneth was fading, exhausted from the visits. "Didn't think I'd go out like this," Kenneth said. "Thought it'd be a bullet, or old age in my sleep, not tubes and machines." "You're not going out," Vance said. "You're healing. There's a difference." "Maybe." Kenneth's eyes closed. "The broom. You took it." "I took it." "Good. Use it. Teach them. Show them that strength isn't about how hard you hit. It's about how you recover, how you keep going, how you find purpose in simple things." "I will," Vance promised. "And Vance, thank you for seeing me that day on the range, for understanding what I was before anyone told you. That kind of instinct is rare. Don't waste it." "I won't, sir." Kenneth drifted off to sleep. Vance stood there for a moment, looking at the old warrior, the legend, the man. Then he left. Kenneth recovered slowly, spent 2 weeks in the hospital, then moved to a rehabilitation facility. The Marines visited every day, brought him coffee, told him stories, kept him connected, and slowly Kenneth got stronger. But something had changed. The heart attack had aged him, made him fragile in a way he'd never been before. He couldn't go back to sweeping. Doctor's orders. Too much physical strain. So the Marines swept for him, took turns, kept the range clean, kept his job alive until he could return. But Kenneth knew he wouldn't return. Not to sweeping. Not to that life. He'd done what he needed to do. Killed the white spider. Trained the next generation. Passed on the knowledge. Now it was time to rest. Really rest. When Kenneth was finally released from rehab, Morrison came to pick him up. "We've arranged a place for you," Morrison said as they drove. "A retirement community near Quantico. Full medical support. Veterans Affairs benefits. You'll be comfortable." Kenneth looked out the window. "I don't need comfortable. I need purpose." "You've earned rest, Kenneth." "Rest is for the dead," Kenneth said, then laughed at himself. "Listen to me. Can't even accept help gracefully." Morrison smiled. "There's something else. The Marines Thorne and his squad, they've requested you as an official advisor, civilian contractor. You'd work with new sniper candidates, teaching, mentoring, but at your own pace, your own terms, no physical labor, just wisdom. Interested?" Kenneth thought about it. Would I still be invisible? If you want to be. Then yes, I'm interested. So, they set Kenneth up in a small office at the training facility. Nothing fancy. Desk, chairs, coffee maker. Kenneth's broom hung on the wall. A reminder. A symbol. Candidates came through. Young Marines, eager, confident, thinking they knew everything. Kenneth taught them they knew nothing, and everything, both at once. Shooting is easy, he'd tell them. Any idiot can pull a trigger. But being a Marine sniper requires wisdom, judgment, the ability to see the bigger picture, to understand that every shot has consequences, that you're not just killing a target, you're affecting families, communities, the course of history. Can you carry that weight? Most said yes without thinking. Kenneth made them think. He ran sessions on ethics, on decision-making under pressure, on recognizing when not to take the shot. You have the power to kill from a mile away, Kenneth would say. That's not a privilege, it's a burden. Use it wisely, use it sparingly. And when the war is over, find a way to put it down. Find a broom, find a garden, find something simple and honest, because the rifle will try to define you. Don't let it. Word spread. Kenneth's sessions became legendary. Marines competed for spots. They wanted to learn from the ghost, the man who'd done it all and survived. But Kenneth never talked about his kills, never bragged, never glorified the violence. He talked about the cost, the price, the weight, and the Marines left his sessions changed, humbled, better. 1 year after the heart attack, Thorne was promoted, made instructor at the Scout Sniper School. He came to Kenneth's office to share the news. That's incredible, Kenneth said. You've earned it. Wouldn't have happened without you, Thorne said. You changed my life, sir. Changed all of us. You changed your own life, Kenneth corrected. I just held up a mirror. Thorne smiled. Still, thank you for everything, for the second chance, for the lessons, for showing me what it really means to be a Marine. Kenneth stood, extended his hand. You're going to be a great instructor. Just remember, it's not about making them the best shooters. It's about making them the best men. The shooting will follow. They shook hands. Then Thorne saluted, crisp, perfect, full of respect. Kenneth returned it. Semper Fi, Sergeant. Semper Fi, Gunny. Thorne left. Kenneth sat back down, looked at his broom on the wall. He'd done it. Broken the cycle. Passed on the knowledge in a way that honored the craft but warned against the addiction. The next generation would be better, wiser, more careful with the power they wielded, and Kenneth could finally rest. Not because he was done, but because he'd done enough. The phone rang. Kenneth answered. Harding. Kenneth, it's Morrison. Got a situation. Need your advice. Talk to me. New intel suggests there might be another operator, someone trained by the White Spider before he died. Early stages, nothing confirmed. But if it's real, Kenneth closed his eyes. Of course there was another one. The war never ended. It just changed forms, changed faces. Send me the files, Kenneth said. I'll take a look. You sure I know you're supposed to be? I'm sure, Kenneth interrupted. This is what I do, what I've always done. I hunt ghosts, until there are no more ghosts to hunt. He hung up, sat in silence for a moment. Then he stood, walked to the wall, took down his broom, held it, felt its familiar weight. Some men swept floors to forget. Kenneth had swept floors to remember, to stay grounded, to practice being present. And now he understood the deeper truth. The broom wasn't about cleaning. It was about continuation, about showing up every day, doing the work, even when the work seemed pointless, even when the floors got dirty again, even when the war kept coming back. You showed up. You did the work. You stayed present. That was all any of them could do. Kenneth hung the broom back on the wall. Then he sat down at his computer, opened Morrison's encrypted files, started reading, started planning. Because somewhere out there, another ghost was waking up. Another cycle was beginning. And Kenneth Harding would be ready. Not because he wanted to be, but because he had to be. Because that's what warriors did. What real warriors did. They protected. They taught. They carried the weight so others didn't have to, until their very last breath. Kenneth smiled, sipped his coffee, got to work. The war never ended, but neither did the warriors. And as long as men like Kenneth Harding existed, men who understood the cost and paid it anyway, there was hope. Hope that the next generation would be better, wiser, stronger. Hope that someday the cycle really would break. Hope that peace wasn't just a dream, but a destination. And until that day came, Kenneth would keep showing up, keep doing the work, keep teaching the lessons, one Marine at a time, one day at a time, one moment at a time, because that's what mattered, not the kills, not the medals, not the glory, the showing up, the consistency, the quiet dedication to making the world a little bit safer, a little bit better. That was the real mission, the one that never ended, the one that mattered most. Kenneth looked at the files on his screen, studied the patterns, made his notes. Then he picked up the phone, called Thorne. "Sergeant, it's Kenneth. Got something new. Might need your team. You available?" A pause. Then, "Always gunny. For you, always." Kenneth smiled. "Good. Get your squad together. Brief them. We've got work to do." "Yes, sir. We'll be ready." Kenneth hung up, leaned back in his chair, and realized something profound. He wasn't sweeping floors anymore, but he was still doing the same work, still staying present, still showing up, still practicing the discipline that had saved his life 50 years ago and countless times since. The tool had changed, but the principle remained. Be still, be present, do the work. Everything else was just details. Kenneth Harding picked up his coffee, took a long sip, got back to work. Because the range needed sweeping, the Marines needed teaching, the ghosts needed hunting. And he was exactly the man for the job. Not because he was special, not because he was a hero, not because he was a legend, but because he'd learned the hardest lesson of all, that true strength wasn't in the weapon you carried, but in the wisdom to know when to put it down, when to pick it up, and how to teach others the difference. That was the lesson that changed everything, the lesson that saved lives, the lesson that mattered. And Kenneth would keep teaching it until the day he died. That was his promise, his purpose, his peace. And it was enough.